On this week's episode of Gritty Birds, I'm talking to the women of Spirit House Records, Joanna Warren, Indira Perchek, and Monica Meltzer. They are a collective, pushing boundaries by giving voice to artists who have not traditionally had a prominent voice in the music industry, women and non-binary voices.
I don't know how I fell into meeting them. I feel super blessed. I feel like I can't really better know, like now we're all moving forward as like legs of one organism in a way.
That's on this week's episode of Gritty Birds. Stay tuned. This is Gritty Birds, an X-Ray FM radio show and podcast, all about the grit behind successful artists and creatives. 107.1, 91.1 Portland, Oregon, and you can find me on all major podcast networks. My name is Jenny Wren Statrup. Friday night, the West Coast music community experienced a horrific loss. 36 people were lost in a fire. I never met these gems, but I could have. I probably would have. The ghost ship represents the true struggle of independent musicians today, and the loss is felt deeply within our community as we support those who are mourning today. This week, there are lessons to learn and friends to grieve. Let's just take one moment of silence. You can help support the survivors and family members of those lost at caringbridge.com. This week's episode of Gritty Birds features Spirit House. It's been a while since I've had an industry talk, so it's fitting that it's going to be a little less narrative than recent episodes. Valerie, Monica, and Joanna are artists in their own rights. They're taking the concept of a label and exploring what it looks like if we rip apart the constructs and are truly collective. The full interview will be up exclusively for Patreon supporters. If you're interested in becoming a patron of the show, it's for as little as $1 a month. You can download every episode there, starting with today's with minimal edits. You can download every episode with minimal edits starting today. www.patreon.com, patreon.com/grittybirds.
I'm Johanna Warren.
I'm Monica Metzler.
I'm Indira Perchek.
My project's called Forest Vale.
My project is called Indira Valley.
I'm still Johanna Warren.
Yes.
Well, we are three fractions of Spirit House, which is a larger label involving other artists who are not with us at this moment.
Including Bella Blasco of the band Vellum, Spirit House launched late in summer 2016 after a successful Kickstarter. They call it a collective and are navigating the waters of the fledgling label.
Yeah, we're all independent artists that have been doing our own thing for a while, and this is sort of like a coven for us to come together and like continue doing what we've been doing individually for a long time, but with the amplified, supported power of the collective.
We all came together, and it's just been a collaborative effort. Joe was throwing around an idea for a while of starting up a record label. That has been on her mind for several years, and we talked about it lightly, and then as things evolved, we realized that we had these albums to release in succession, and so did Bella, which is the producer and engineer for a lot of Johanna's stuff, and we're just like, we have all these albums, the time is now, let's make it happen. And then we just quickly put things into action and kickstarted it up, and now we're just starting to bloom as a tiny little label, getting our feet on the ground.
What has been so far the biggest challenge that you've encountered starting a label?
There's been so much to figure out. I knew it was going to be a lot of work, but just figuring out legal stuff, taxes, not that we've had to pay taxes yet, but just I'm like bracing myself for that. I know it's going to be fun to try to figure that out. Just a lot of like sectors of like human life that I had always kind of held at arm's length and been like, I'm not cut out for that. I don't want to think about that. Really having to dive in and get my hands dirty, like figuring out how to make it work on the practical, logistical levels. It's like I'm like an artist and like an idea person, and I have a lot of ideas, and then so making something really functional come into reality with like a lot of moving working parts. It's been a lot, but it's been really rewarding to take that on, and at this point it feels really like empowering to kind of step into those grown-up human shoes and figure out how to run a business.
Yeah, and something that's unique about this label is that it's mostly collectively run. Like, we're not like, oh, one person's going to make all the decisions. So in that way, it's like a great challenge to really communicate with each other and like to bounce off things from each other and like, you know, just really make decisions collectively.
What can you clarify that idea of a collective consciousness and what that explores for you as a quartet of artists that are producing a label?
Well, there's more of us now. It's moved beyond even a quartet at this point.
Everyone who joins the label is part of that collective then.
In a sense, that's kind of, we're trying to figure that out now too, like just in terms of decision making, especially because I don't want to be too democratic and end up stalemating ourselves if we can't find a unanimous agreement. So that's something that we're kind of still figuring out too. But, you know, we're kind of the core founding members, so that's sort of where we're at. Like, I want everyone's voices to be heard, and I really invite open dialogue, especially around fairness. Like, if anything feels unfair, if anyone feels like they're being taken advantage of, even in the slightest way, or being disrespected in the slightest way, I'm like, please bring that forth immediately. Like, don't let it like fester as silent resentment, you know, just like I, as both an artist on the label and like someone trying to run a business, I feel like all of us have been sort of trying to like play this game of chess with ourselves, of like playing from both sides to like make a successful business, but also not do things that I think a lot of traditional labels do that, like, as an artist I take issue with. It's just like, why are you taking all my money again? Remind me, like, what are you doing for me? Like, why should I feel good about this contract? So that's kind of what we're all trying to figure out, and use our hive mind to really find something that feels collectively empowering and honoring.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the challenges we have right now, is as we're moving forward and growing after we had this initial startup, it's like, what's the contract for running this business, and how do we make contracts for artists, and what are the different what are the different roles and tasks, and what's the core group, what's, as we expand forward. So it's been really really educational and exciting to embark on, fusing that business with artistry and just like collaborative mindset of just how can we make this work for everybody. And I think that's like the cool thing about being an artist and working from the inside on this label. It's like we want it to benefit everybody, we want it to empower you, and we have both perspectives on that.
I've just grown up to be
That was Memory of a Goldfish by Indira Valley. It was the first in a succession of releases by the label in late summer of 2016, including Monica and Joanna's respective projects, as well as albums from East Coast-based artists Lola Kirk, Vellum, and Stick Lips. Monica thinks of this grand entrance as a birth.
Well, all three of us have birthed our albums, our most current albums, and so that feels really good because we've all been working on them for a while, and then we decided to house them with, Spirit House, and so that's just been really amazing to put these albums out into the world. Indira released her album first, and then Jo released her album, and then I just did in October, and so Bella will be releasing hers pretty soon.
And Lola Kirk hopped in there too.
Yeah, and we signed
that
on
was kind of a last minute
Kirk.
surprise. But I think that's been another really cool thing, is just that it's magnetizing really sparkly, awesome people. Like, it feels like if you build it, they will come. Like, we just built this thing, and now people are like showing up, being like, hey, what are you guys doing? Can I get in there? Like, cool. And it's just, it's really like we put out this call, and like all the right people are responding, and that feels really cool. Like, I'm excited for the future. We have like several artists like lined up for 2017 already, which feels really exciting.
Lola Kirk is an exciting addition to the label. She grew up in the New York art world and is currently known for her role in Amazon's Mozart in the Jungle. The 3rd season of the show launches this week. Joanna connected to her when she still lived on the East Coast.
Yeah, and it was funny because, we never really connected too much at that time. Like, we were always on each other's peripheral radar, and I was always like too intimidated to ever even like talk to her, but it was like crushing on her from afar. And then we really just connected in a more substantial way earlier this year. It was kind of mystical. Like, I guess around December, she just started popping up everywhere in my life. Like, I hadn't heard or thought about her since we graduated, but then suddenly I was just like seeing, she's doing really well in her acting career. I just was seeing her face everywhere, and there was just this one 24-hour period where she popped up like 4 times, and I texted her because I still had her number, and I was like, hey, just thinking about you, how's it going? And then over the next 6 months or so, I had a series of kind of intense mystical dreams about her where we were just like walking and talking, and it was lovely. And then I ended up playing a show with her in LA, and it was just a really magical, beautiful night. And yeah, it's just kind of one of those funny, like, human, like, astrological feelings of like we're these like planetary bodies that like orbit each other and kind of move in tandem and then part ways and then come back together. It was kind of a cool re-colliding.
Yeah. In having a different kind of label that supports artists first, it means creating different structures and incentives than traditional models.
We have a radically artist-friendly model financially. Like, most standard record label agreements are at least 50-50 between the label and the artist, and that's after recouping all expenses on the label's behalf. And usually, almost always the label owns the master, and it can be I've heard so many bad stories of people like signing what looks like a good agreement but then ending up getting kind of screwed over with fine print and just things that they didn't have an understanding of. So I think transparency and real like friendship and community is like a big part of what we're offering. Just, like kind of political ideals also of just being like, screw the patriarchy. Like, we've all, we all make really good music, and we've been working really hard, and for some reason we haven't gotten those big deals. Like, we haven't been accepted into like the pre-existing mainstream structures. So for me, it feels like I know, based on like where I'm at in my career, like I haven't been offered like anything that I want to sign. So I'm kind of like, I guess that's kind of where I'm at, like, as an artist, like trying to really create the space that I feel comfortable existing in, and like where I know that I can trust the label and like feel really great about it, and not sort of resentful and questioning like if I'm just sort of a little cog in their machinery that is not respected or valued. So
Yeah, I mean, we can offer the like another opportunity to do it differently. Like, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, and I think that's been the most powerful thing for me is like, oh yeah, we can legitimize ourselves. We can legitimize this, and we have good ideas, and we have momentum, and we all have visions, and like we're creating and co-creating this other way of putting our music out in the world in a way that feels good, in a way that feels empowering, and doesn't feel like we have to sacrifice our artistic integrity or our vision. And so, yeah, that's what we offer. And we offer camaraderie. We offer Skillshare. If you need to have a video done, Indira is really good with videography, engineering. Bella and I can do that. So we have skills where we can help you. And we're taking on the tasks of a record label anyways, like sending out the merch, like doing the press releases so that we can make sure that, your album release gets the attention when it comes out. So things that other record labels offer, but we're offering a different paradigm to do it with, basically.
Joanna's record New Moon was released to critical acclaim in 2015. Her experiences surrounding its release gave her insight into publicity, inspiring her to become her own boss and encourage this within her label.
At the moment, we're experimenting with just insourcing as much as possible, like really using this as an opportunity to sort of hire ourselves to do the tasks that usually you would outsource and like pay $1,200 a month to a publicist or a mailings company, like to take care of this stuff. And like, of course, if you have the capital to do that, you'll probably get higher returns. Like if you hire a company to send out your CDs to 1,200 radio stations in the country, like that's a lot. But I've heard enough and had direct experiences enough with hiring people and being kind of underwhelmed and disappointed with the returns that I'm like, I'm kind of interested in seeing what we can do for ourselves. And it might not be like the biggest thing that's ever happened, but it might be just enough and just right, and like attract people who want to help us, like pro bono, because they believe in what we're doing. There have been so many little moments like throughout my career where like people tell me like, you have to do this, you have to spend money to make money, like you have to like hire this publicist, like that's how you'll get what you want. And then like at a couple moments in my career I've been like, okay, like I'm going for it, I just saved up $800 and like I'm investing it in this service, and then it's done nothing. So I'm not saying that's like everyone's experience at all, but for me it's been kind of a clear pattern where like when I do save up money and then give it to someone to do things for me, I'm like, why did I do that? I could have done that myself and like kept my money. So that's kind of what's brought me to this place.
I think that is an interesting conversation, and one that I've come across often, especially as I think that the markets are changing so much, that there still is this concept of it would be nice to be on a label and what that looks like putting things out, but also how can you do it yourself? Because right now there are more tools than there ever have been before.
Totally.
To be able to do it right yourself. And it's been interesting, like having conversations with someone saying like, how do you get a manager? And kind of, I've always been sort of like, you don't get one. Like I've kind of been staunchly against that because it was something I'd explored in the past, and it was sort of, I think there was this sort of sense where, well, if you can't get a manager, it means that you weren't good enough. Your sound wasn't naturally good enough to be able to push to that next level. And that was sort of the like hidden secret, is that these gatekeepers knew more and they were more magical, and that they had a bigger and more important stance. It was sort of this like in or out kind of feel if you were allowed to have that opportunity.
Yeah, which can be so disempowering, and I think that's what we've all been experiencing to some degree or another, is like we do believe in what we're doing and we think it's good, and that's why, I mean, we're doing it for ourselves, for our own sake, because we have to, because it's just what we're here to do. And I was getting extremely tired, and it was really affecting me to like be reaching out and be just rejected and rejected and rejected, or just like reaching for something that's just like ever elusive. and feeling like I couldn't do what I wanted to do because I wasn't getting the blessing of those gatekeepers. So that's like why we're doing this, like becoming the gatekeepers and opening the gate for ourselves.
Feels like it's been a while. What am I waiting for? Your empty-hearted smile, I don't care anymore. The slow descent into the madness of our fears. You know I meant to do it better this time, but I'm not really here. You went the extra mile. Am I supposed to be proud? You're in denial. I can't stand by watching you drown. I know the game, don't want to waste another day just grinding our gears. There's no one to blame for all the pain you felt all these years. Feels like it's been a while. What am I doing wrong? Tooth of a crocodile, I guess you were right all along.
That was A Bird in the Crocodile's Mouth from Joanna Warren's fall release Gemini 1. The details of running a label aren't always glamorous. Valerie, Joanna, Monica, and Bella all work day jobs to keep things going. It means that time to be an artist has to be nurtured. But in the collective, Monica has found this to be an inspiring space.
I hear a lot about empowerment and femme power, and then the sense of coven. And how has that empowered you to continue creating music and performing music while still sitting on the computer and logging in the hours that are necessary to keep the rest of the world's communications flowing?
I mean, that's a really good question. It's a balancing act, you know, and I think for me at least, it's like it's been really great to just have my peoples, you know, to have collaborators and really, really deep friendships with these people where I can get honesty and transparency and ask for advice or run something by them, or get re-inspired by what they're doing too, or get validated, or get tenderly held while I have existential crises about my artistry all the time. You know, it's a nice way to hold each other up while we try to figure it out, and it feels good to work towards something that I believe in, and so that gives me power. And and it's a thin line, you know, of trying to build this empire for yourself in whatever ways, of whether it's working or going to school or doing music business. It's never just artistic expression, you know. I wish we lived in a time where that was more feasible, but we have to do other things to get our voices out there and to try and make some sort of living and hopefully align it with our passion. So yeah, it's a give and take, but just for me, I just try to carve out time for the magical exploration of process still, and also just having the influence of these talented artists around me and seeing what they're doing and checking in with them gives me more energy to keep going when I'm feeling stuck, or just seeing the other processes happen around me is really helpful. to be like, I'm not the only one.
Bella and Joanna researched labels while they were both in New York. Joanna had previously been on the label Team Love. She describes the company as great. They're like a really small label that is run by really sweet people whose hearts are in the right places. Despite her positive relationship with the label, there were pieces of the financial relationships that left her wanting more. Spirit House does its own thing.
Yeah, we did some just internet research, just looking at like what artists are on certain labels and how much attention they're getting, and we were kind of surprised to see how, like, it seemed like for the most part the way that most labels are is like they'll have a small handful of artists that are like really huge, and then a bunch of people who you've never heard of, and you look at their Facebook and it's like 600 likes or something. So I was like, that's really curious, and I don't really understand. I mean, I know that like the earnings from the biggest artists are kind of like funding the whole thing, but it was just, I don't know. Yeah, we looked around and tried to find like models that we could follow, but like I don't really know of anybody else out there doing what we're doing. I know there are collectives, and that's like I went to school with the kids who are doing the Epoch Collective. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're kind of, it's like Florist and Bellows and Eskimo, and they're all kind of doing pretty well in like the indie DIY scene. And that we both kind of started collectives around the same time. I had something called Proliferate at the time, and that was it's been inspiring to see that that's been working for them. Like, they're all just like real friends who believe in what they're doing and have cross-promoted each other, and I think there's a similar thread that runs through their music where like if you like one, you'll probably like the others. So that for me has been one point of inspiration out there.
Sunrise, sunset, do you have your regrets? Backwards, forwards, I want more. Another worry, others stories. Backwards, forwards, I want more.
was Sunrise Sunset off Forest Vale's release Zoo Lights. Spirit House is a label for women and non-binary voices. This doesn't mean they don't support men, but instead it's become an opportunity for a much larger and important conversation about uplifting and creating space for these voices. The feeling came out in our conversation about the challenge and need to push up these voices.
Well, I think it's just in response to the main discourse, that's happening of like the music industry, and much of industry in the world is still very patriarchal. It's still very capitalist run, and so for us, I mean, we all identify as women personally, and we wanted to showcase non-masculinity in music. Not that we're opposed to that at all. It's more like opposition to like just like too much space for that. Like we want to share the space. We don't want to take over the space, but we want to be able to elevate voices that haven't been heard as much. And I think it is changing, but it's still not necessarily in equilibrium all the time.
Especially when you have Trump up for president right now, and half the discourse is still about how women should be like getting off of the streets.
Yeah, it's
you know?
easy to forget what a problem it still is when you live in Portland or like a more enlightened place. Like, and I've gotten criticism on social media, like, really, come on, like listing all these like female artists who have been around for 100 years and like winning Grammys and stuff, like Mariah Carey. Come on, how can you say that like women aren't valued in music? Look at Adele, look at Beyonce. And I'm like, that kind of gave me pause for a second. I was like, okay, like there are a lot of female entertainers, but first of all, if you look at the credits on the majority of those like female pop stars albums, you're gonna see a lot of men, songwriters, producers, engineers, managers, agents. There's like this woman who's put on stage because she looks pretty and has a pretty voice, and that's not at all to say that like these people are not super powerful artists, but they are being taken advantage of by a system of
and they
men.
Predominantly have to answer to and work with men, and that's okay. But like for us, like another big part of Spirit House is we're all producers. We all have control over artistic vision. We all do the internal workings of everything. So it's not even just like we're elevating just female entertainers and songwriters. It's like, no, we're elevating the entire process, being completely independently female and non-binary run, just because we don't see that very often. And we had these skills and we had these visions and we have this power. So we're like, yeah, let's do this. It's becoming less rare, like you said, but it's still very rare. And so we wanted to just showcase that it's possible and that I think it is necessary. People are hungry for it. And I think we have gotten good responses, and we'll always get some negative responses about it because that's just the way it is.
I think it's really important to like think about that. Like that comment was like really, I was like, I think we should write an article about this or something, because I want to be clear, because I understand where people are confused in that way, because I don't think that they see the inner workings of the industry. They just see women on stage looking like they're in charge, and a lot of them are at this point, but systemically still there's like major issues, especially in like studio culture, like that. Like Bella, who's not here because she lives in New York, she and I have been having these conversations for years because she records my music, and it was such a revelation for me to get in a studio space with her after having had years of working with like a team of men. And I just thought that was just, I never questioned it. I felt really small. I felt like I just willingly gave up control over my own art because I didn't understand how studio stuff worked, and like they were using very technical language that felt inaccessible, and they were being very assertive just energetically and socially, and I was just like, okay, like hands off, you guys do this. And then it wasn't until I started working with Belle that I was like, whoa, I actually understand a lot more than I thought I did, and I actually do have a lot of ideas that wanted to come out and just didn't have space to come out before. So that's been a huge part of our mission statement, is to like uplift women who are already taking production into their own hands, and then encourage other female artists to recognize that they have options and they don't need to just like sign up with like the first like male producer who comes her way wanting to or you know, anyone who wants to like insert their vision into yours and like not let you like really speak for yourself, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just thinking from the perspective of a man who's a musician or producer, an engineer, like how would they ever have perspective what it's like to not be a man trying to pursue music, trying to start a record label. And like I wanted to like bring to the conversation also this, that we are women, we're women identified, we also respect and like bring in the voices of non-binary folks, which we could talk on and on about that, but it's like, I don't know, like gender is a construct to separate us and to bring, that has been a form of power and hierarchy. And what we're saying is that we don't want that. We don't welcome that. We are a collective that welcomes voices that have been essentially suppressed.
It's not about disenfranchising men, but instead a system that has disenfranchised women.
I also want to say, like, we love men.
We
like,
do love men.
Men are great. And men are suffering from the same systemic issues that we are in different, largely opposite ways. Everyone's suffering because people weren't given the tools that they need to, like, access their full selves. Mm-hmm. And I don't blame men. I blame patriarchy. And, like, I don't want... Like, it kind of makes me uncomfortable, actually. Like, we've gotten a couple men who have reached out and been like, hey, I really love what you guys are doing. Can I be on your label? And it's made me kind of, like, feel a little bit awkward and sad to be like, well, no men allowed. You know, because I don't want to perpetuate separatism and, like, gender-based judgment. But we're at a place historically where I feel like it's... just like it's really valuable to have like kind of safe, separate spaces for racial minorities or just any sector of people who have been historically oppressed. Like there needs to be this moment in history of like balancing the scales. Like for me, where I'm at is like that's part of the evolution and like it's not the end. Like I don't want to like continue to live in a super gendered world, but like right now it feels important to like give extra love and extra safe space and attention to like the gender that has been historically oppressed. But like my hope for humanity is that we can get to a place where we're all just equally respected, given equal rights, have equal sense of like entitlement to speak and take up space, and we can all just forget about the whole thing.
The collective is a house of spirits. There's an emotional and spiritual narrative throughout each artist's work.
I'd say, I don't want to put words into anyone's mouth, but I'd say we all have some sort of spiritual connection in our music. Like, at least that's what we've talked about in the three of us. Just sort of talking about parts of the human experience that are maybe more of a spiritual connection. I know for myself, music is a side of me that I get to like channel and bring out with my voice and my music, like things that I can't really explain. So it's maybe more of like a spiritual journey for me, and I've noticed that in both Johanna and Monica's music. how would you describe it, Joe?
So you'd say
I don't know.
overarching, there's a spiritual concept to it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like delves within that larger realm in kind of what your main focus is as an artist.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, like, I totally agree. And I think when we talk about like that spiritual connection, it's not like we're there like singing about our chakras and Count Saint Germain, but like it's coming from a deeper place, and like we're kind of acknowledging as artists our place as like a bridge between the worlds, where we get inspiration from the source, like the great beyond, and then bring it, like manifest it into human physical reality.
Joanna Likens' artist she's drawn to for the collective is almost possessed. It's a noble journey, an exploration they are just beginning at Spirit House.
When I go out there like on tour, like kind of scouting for people, like thinking like, oh, like maybe I'll meet someone that wants to be on Spirit House tonight. Like what I look for in artists is like just that sense, and like they don't even have to know it or think about it in those terms or identify that way, but like you can feel it. Like I can feel it, like if it's coming from a place that like this thing, this like muse, this beast has like kind of chosen this person as their vessel, but like it's coming through, and it needs to come through, and it wants to come through, and there's nothing like there's not a sense of like trying on the artist's behalf. It's just kind of like, here it is, you know, and like you're gonna feel it because it's real. And that's like that's kind of what I'm really proud of, like in all of the music that we've put out, is just kind of that it has its own life and it's not contrived, it just is.
Thanks for tuning into Gritty Birds, an X-Ray FM radio show and podcast. You can follow me on socials at GRITTYBIRDS and hear the show on iTunes and all major podcast networks. The full and mostly unedited version of the show will be up exclusively for supporters on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can access full transcripts as well as unedited conversations. That's patreon.com/grittybirds. The end of the year is coming up, and I'm working on my best of lists. If you haven't sent me your music, I'm always here at GRITTYBIRDS@gmail.com. I love hearing from listeners. Tell me what you want to learn about in 2017. Gritty Birds is produced by myself, Jenny Wren Stotrup, with the amazing support of X-Ray FM. The interview was recorded in X-Ray's production studio. This week's board operator is Dan Indrips. The episode was transcribed by Amit Erez of the fantastic band The Secret Sea. Next week is a special holiday episode with David Bazan. Till next time.